Apple is looking to invest an additional $100 billion in the U.S. Manufacturing commitments. This comes as the tech giant continues to face pressures with the threat of tariffs to manufacture its iPhones in the U.S. Here to decode the tricky path ahead, we have Tufts University, Fletcher School of Law and Diplomacy, adjunct associate professor Gautam Mukunda, along with Yahoo Finance tech reporter Dan Howley. Dan, my friend, I want to start with you and give us a lay of the land, Dan, for Apple right now.
Things are looking up, at least for now. We have Tim Cook. He's supposed to join President Trump at the White House during this announcement in about an hour. And the big deal here is another $100 billion. That's on top of the $500 billion that they had previously said that they would spend in the U.S. This is related to manufacturing in some capacity. We don't exactly know yet. It's worth noting that they previously said that we would work with partners to work on a factory to build out their AI servers in Texas. That was part of that $500 billion idea. The other thing going on here is the Trump administration telling Yahoo Finance that the India tariffs would largely not impact Apple. And so that's a big deal because the iPhones that are destined for the U.S. are built in India. And Apple kind of did this maneuvering when the original tariffs went into place, or the threat of tariffs went into place for China. China is still where they manufacture the rest of their iPhones for the rest of the world, but the ones that come here come through India. So you can imagine Apple probably wasn't excited at the prospect of 25% tariffs on goods from India. Trump had also previously threatened a 25% tariff on iPhones just because they weren't made in the U.S. So now with this $100 billion investment, it looks like they're getting back on Trump's good side. We'll just have to see how that plays out. You know, I've discussed this before, but building a smartphone plant isn't exactly the same as, you know, setting up a car wash or a Wawa. It's a long-term thing. Also, shout out to Wawa.
Gautam, I want to bring you in here as well, my friend. Get your take on this news. And I'm looking at the stock, Gautam. It is surging nearly 6% in today's trade. What do you make of that?
Tim Cook rarely puts a foot wrong and demonstrates a level of political sophistication that his peers should learn from. The announcement is an announcement. It's giving President Trump what he wants, which is a headline. Will they actually do it? I mean, I don't know, and I'm not sure they know either. The parallel here is the major announcement during the first Trump administration that Foxconn was going to put $10 billion into Wisconsin. There was going to be factories. There were going to be thousands of manufacturing jobs. None of that happened. The state of Wisconsin spent hundreds of millions of dollars in subsidies. They generated, you know, a handful of jobs and a showpiece thing that looks like a budget Epcot center, and no manufacturing jobs and no plants. But the headline was the big thing, and then everybody moved on and forgot about it, except, of course, Wisconsin taxpayers. Apple is doing the same thing. They're getting the headline. They're going to get their exemption on their tariffs, I'm sure. And they're, you know, Tim Cook is really good at this stuff. I think other people should sort of observe that. I wrote a column a little while ago saying CEOs need to understand, thanks to President Trump, this new world, CEOs need to understand politics as well as they understand financial markets. There aren't too many who do. Cook seems like he might be one of them.
Jess, I want to bring you in here as well. I look at the stock reaction as well, Jess, get your thoughts on this. I wonder, listen, there's all kinds of reasons it could be up today. Could it also be because if I'm an Apple investor, just bottom line, I am riding alongside Tim Cook, and hey, all else being equal, it's a good thing that Tim Cook and the President of the United States seem to be, right now, on good terms.
Sure, it's certainly a negotiation tactic. As we were saying earlier, Trump did say at some point that companies will pay for tariffs. Perhaps it's the investment in the U.S. that is leading to that. But what I think is interesting is price action. I actually have a very, very strong level of resistance around 215, which I want to see us surpass that, which is going to happen with earnings follow through. That's a very important component, or whatever Tim says today. We also need to digest that. But when I'm looking at price action, as in to give you more clarity of how strong of a moment that is, that was formed from June of 2024 and tested multiple times. It was an area of support, and we fell through that. Old support becomes new resistance, which means from a psychological perspective, think about this from a function of supply and demand. If we have a lot of investors that own Apple around 215, it hits that price, you're more apt to have supply come in and sell, thus causing price pressure downwards. And that's what's happening right now with Apple. We're very close to that 215, even though we have a lovely rally right now, there is this strong area of resistance that I want to watch to see if we have any additional upwards momentum.
Dan, mentioning this rally today, do you think it's also in part because investors, and tell me if you agree with this, they like the diversification, or at least the intent to diversification? I mean, Tim Cook's been doing this. Listen, I mean, obviously, I'm not minimizing it. China is still a key link in his supply chain, but he's making moves to India, to Vietnam, and maybe investors also like to see, hey, you're also broadening a footprint in the U.S. too.
I think that's part of it. I think that honestly, the big kind of thing that stands out is truly getting on the president's good side and potentially dodging these tariffs from India. That's not the last trouble spot for Apple, though, at least with regards to the government. They also have to be on the lookout for those Section 232 tariffs that President Trump says are coming within the next week. We don't know how those are going to play out. We don't know if it's going to be on raw semiconductors, on semiconductors in devices, what devices could be tariffed as a result of that, how they're going to do the tariffs. Are they going to do it on the whole device? Are they going to do it on just the value that the chip adds to the device? How many chips will be part of that? Because look, an iPhone isn't just a CPU, it's chips for a whole bunch of products, pieces of that product. And so, that's the other big matter going on right here. So I think, obviously people are kind of exuberant at this moment just because of this thought that, hey, maybe Apple's, out of that shadow that they might have been in for a bit, but they still have to look forward to the Section 232 issue. Tim Cook had said on the earnings call that when he said that there would be $1.1 billion worth of headwinds as a result of tariffs, that did not include anything to do with Section 232 on the last earnings call. So obviously they're kind of just waiting like the rest of us.
Gautam, we do expect Trump and Cook to make this announcement later today. When we see them together, Gautam, what are you listening for there?
So the answer, frankly, is not much. This administration has a sort of a central problem. To quote Ronald Reagan in one of his great lines, the right hand and the far right hand often don't know what they're doing. So Section 232, if you look at it, it's very easy to write a Section 232 report in such a way that it gives the administration what it wants. And the problem that I think Cook and certainly many other CEOs are encountering is, but just at least partly because of the way this administration is staffed, it doesn't have policy coordination. Different policies are cutting in different directions in really profound ways. So these tariffs are supposed to bring manufacturing into the United States, and maybe, there'll be some final assembly, but this is sort of a basic misunderstanding of how complex supply chains are, that the sort of rate limiting steps in iPhone production, critical things like chips, those still aren't going to be made in the United States. And the only way they could have been is through the CHIPS Act subsidies that the Trump administration zeroed out. So I suspect they'll be very friendly. They'll be very buddy-buddy. But next week, the administration might do something that contradicts all of its current policies just because no one is sitting down and working the policy process to make sure that everything lines up. I guess on that point, Gautam, I'd be curious. Trump has pushed Cook, hard on this idea you should be making the iPhones here. We have had any number of, Apple analysts who come on the show and say, that's not exactly financially tenable for Cook. I'm wondering, and I'm asking you to speculate here, but after this announcement, after this headline, do you think Trump backs off that? I think he'll just keep saying it rhetorically, but whether he'll actually do policy enforcement, Apple is one of the handful of companies that has a level of stature that if things go really wrong, it will have political consequences, right? If the next wave of iPhone released in September is messed up in some way, in a way that's directly attributed to Donald Trump, people will care about that. That will actually, it might be the only consumer product in the world. Well, that will show up in his numbers. That will affect Republicans who are trying to run for re-election going in next November. So there aren't many companies that they'll be cautious about. Apple might be one of them. Gautam, Dan, thank you guys. Appreciate it.